This young man thought love would conquer all, but she crushed his heart and rejected him for being too poor. Years later, what he became shocked everyone, but when she came crawling back, his response left the entire village speechless. Will she regret her choice, or will pride destroy her forever? Sit back and find out as we enter this powerful story. In the small village of Emeka, there lived a young man named Daniel. He was humble, hard-working, and kind to everyone. Daniel was the son of a poor farmer who owned a small piece of land where they planted yams and cassava. His father had died when Daniel was only 15 years old, leaving him to care for his sick mother and two younger sisters. Every morning, Daniel would wake up before the sun rose, work on the farm, and then walk 5 miles to sell vegetables in the neighboring town. His clothes were old and patched, his shoes worn out, but his spirit was never broken. The villagers respected him because even though he had nothing, he never stole, never lied, and never complained. That Daniel, the old women would say at the market, he may be poor, but he has a golden heart. But there was one thing Daniel carried in his heart, a deep love for a girl named Blessing. Blessing was the most beautiful girl in Emeka village. Her father was Chief Okoro, the wealthiest man in the land. He owned large acres of farmland, a big house with iron gates, and 3 cars. Blessing grew up with everything she wanted: fine clothes, expensive shoes, and respect from everyone. She walked with her head held high, and many young men desired her. But Blessing had eyes only for wealth. She believed that money was everything. Her mother, Mama Okoro, had taught her from a young age, "My daughter, never marry a poor man. Poverty is a disease that will destroy your beauty and kill your joy. Look at those women who married for love. See how they suffer now, carrying water on their heads and washing clothes in the stream. Is that the life you want?" And so Blessing lived by those words. She measured every man by the size of his pocket, not the size of his heart. Daniel had loved Blessing since they were children. He remembered the day when they were both 12 years old, playing by the village stream. Blessing had slipped on a wet stone and almost fell into the water. It was Daniel who caught her hand and pulled her back to safety. She had smiled at him then, a pure and innocent smile. "Thank you, Daniel," she had said softly, her eyes bright with gratitude. That smile stayed in Daniel's heart for years. Even as they grew older and their paths separated, Daniel never stopped thinking about her. He would watch her from a distance as she walked to the market with her mother. His heart would race whenever their eyes met. Sometimes she would give him a small nod, other times she would look away as if he did not exist. But Daniel knew the truth. A poor farmer's son had no chance with the daughter of a chief. His friends often teased him. "Daniel, forget that girl," his friend Emeka would say. "She is not for people like us." Her father will never allow it, but love does not listen to reason. Still, Daniel held on to hope. One bright afternoon, after selling all his vegetables and making a little extra money, Daniel decided he could no longer keep his feelings hidden. He washed his best shirt, the one his mother had sewn for him years ago, combed his hair neatly with palm oil to make it shine, and walked to Chief Okoro's compound. His heart pounded so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. As he approached the tall iron gate, he noticed how magnificent the compound looked. The walls were freshly painted white, flowers bloomed in neat rows, and 2 security men stood guard. The gateman, a tall man with a stern face, looked at him with suspicion. "What do you want here?" the man asked rudely, his voice sharp. Daniel swallowed hard and replied, "Please, sir, I have come to see Blessing. I want to speak with her." The gateman looked him up and down, his eyes filled with contempt. He laughed mockingly, his voice echoing across the compound. "You? A poor farm boy wants to see the chief's daughter. Look at your clothes. Look at your shoes with holes. You think you can just walk in here? Go away before I chase you with a stick." But Daniel stood his ground, his fists clenched at his sides. "Please, just tell her Daniel is here. She knows me. We grew up together in this village." The gateman shook his head, spat on the ground near Daniel's feet, and said, "I know who you are. Everyone knows the poor farmer's son. But that does not mean you belong here. This is Chief Okoro's house, not a place for beggars." Daniel felt his face burn with shame, but he refused to leave. Please, sir, just tell her. If she says she does not want to see me, then I will leave and never come back." The gateman stared at him for a long moment, then sighed heavily. "Wait here, but do not blame me when she sends you away." He walked inside to deliver the message, his footsteps heavy on the concrete. A few minutes later, Blessing came to the gate. She wore a beautiful yellow dress that shimmered in the afternoon sun, and gold earrings shone in her ears. Her skin glowed like honey, and her hair was braided perfectly. She looked at Daniel with a frown, her arms crossed over her chest. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" she asked coldly, her voice loud enough for the servants nearby to hear. Daniel's hands trembled as he spoke. His mouth was dry and his voice cracked. "Blessing, I need to talk to you. Please, can we speak privately?" Blessing looked around at the servants who had gathered, whispering and pointing. She enjoyed the attention. "Talk? About what?" "We have nothing to discuss, Daniel." Daniel took a deep breath, gathering all his courage. "Blessing, I know I am not a rich man. I know my clothes are old and my shoes are torn. I know I do not have a car or a big house. But I have loved you for many years. My heart beats only for you. Every morning when I wake up, you are my first thought. Every night before I sleep, I pray for you. Please give me a chance. I promise I will work hard. I will build a future for us. I may not have money now, but I have determination. I have strength. I have love. Please, Blessing, just give me one chance." For a moment, silence hung in the air. The servants stopped whispering. Even the gateman waited to hear her response. Then Blessing laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was sharp and cruel, cutting through the air like a knife. "Daniel, are you mad?" she said loudly, making sure everyone heard her. "You think love is enough? You think I will marry a poor farmer who smells of sweat and soil? Look at yourself. You have nothing. No house, no car, no money. What can you offer me? Suffering? Hunger? Shame?" Daniel's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. He tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. His eyes burned with unshed tears. Blessing continued, her voice rising with each word. She wanted to humiliate him completely. "Do you think I will wake up at dawn to fetch water from the stream? Do you think I will wash clothes with my hands until they bleed? Do you think I will cook on firewood and live in a mud house? That is what poverty brings, Daniel. And I am not a woman who will eat stones and drink tears. I need a man who can give me the life I deserve. A man with money, with status, with power. You are not that man. You will never be that man." The servants laughed. The gateman shook his head. Daniel stood there, frozen, his whole body trembling. But Blessing was not finished. She stepped closer to him, her eyes cold and merciless. "Daniel, go back to your farm. Go back to your poverty. Go back to your sick mother and your dirty sisters. You are not worthy to stand at my gate. You are not worthy to breathe the same air as me. And if you ever come back here again, I will tell my father to have you beaten and thrown out of this village. Do you understand me?" Daniel's lips moved, but no sound came out. His vision blurred as tears filled his eyes. He nodded slowly, turned, and walked away. Behind him, he could hear Blessing's laughter mixed with the mocking voices of the servants. The gateman called after him, "Poor boy, now you know your place. Stay away from people above your level." Daniel walked down the dusty road, his head down, his shoulders shaking. People who saw him whispered and pointed. The news of his rejection spread through the village like wildfire. By evening, everyone knew. Daniel, the poor farmer's son, had dared to approach Chief Okoro's daughter and had been humiliated. That night, Daniel sat alone in his small room. The walls were cracked and the roof leaked when it rained. His mother was asleep on a thin mat in the next room, and his sisters shared one bed covered with an old wrapper. He stared at the cracked ceiling and whispered to himself, tears streaming down his face. "Blessing, you have judged me by what I do not have. But one day I will show you what I can become. One day you will regret the words you spoke to me today, not because I want to hurt you, but because you will see that you were wrong. You will see that a man's value is not in his pocket, but in his heart and his determination." From that moment, Daniel made a vow. He would rise. He would work harder than any man in the village. He would leave poverty behind, not for revenge, but to prove that a man's worth is not measured by his present condition, but by his determination and character. He wiped his tears, clenched his fists, and whispered into the darkness, "I will show them. I will show everyone." The next morning, Daniel woke up with a new fire in his heart. He went to see the village elder, a wise old man named Papa Eze. Papa Eze was respected throughout the land. He had traveled to many places and had seen much in his long life. Daniel found him sitting under a large mango tree, smoking his pipe and watching the children play. "Papa," Daniel said respectfully, bowing his head, "I want to talk to you." Papa Eze looked at him with kind eyes. He had heard about what happened at Chief Okoro's compound. "Sit down, my son," he said gently, patting the ground beside him. Daniel sat and for a long moment said nothing. Then he spoke, his voice steady despite the pain in his heart. "Papa, I want to leave the village. I want to go to the city and find work. I want to change my life. I cannot stay here anymore. Every face I see reminds me of my shame. Every whisper I hear is about my rejection. I need to go." Papa Eze pulled on his pipe and blew smoke into the air. He studied Daniel's face carefully. "My son, the city is not an easy place. Many young men go there with dreams and return with empty hands and broken spirits. The city is cruel. It will test you. It will break you. It will tempt you to become someone you are not." But he paused and looked directly into Daniel's eyes. "I see something different in your eyes. I see fire. I see determination. I see a man who has been wounded but not destroyed. If you are truly determined, then go. But never forget where you come from. Never forget your mother and sisters who depend on you. And most importantly, never let money change your heart. Money can build houses, but it can also build walls around your soul. Do you understand me?" Daniel nodded, his eyes wet. "I promise, Papa. I will remember. I will send money back home. I will take care of my family. And I will never become like those who look down on the poor, because I know how it feels to be looked down upon." Papa Eze smiled and placed his wrinkled hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Then go, my son. Go with my blessing. And when you succeed, and I believe you will, remember to come back and help your people. Success is not just for one man, it is for the community." Daniel stood up, bowed deeply, and said, "Thank you, Papa. I will make you proud." That night, Daniel told his mother of his decision. Mama Daniel was a frail woman, worn out by years of hard work and illness. She lay on her mat, her breathing shallow. When Daniel told her he was leaving for the city, tears rolled down her sunken cheeks. "My son," she whispered, "I am afraid. What if something happens to you? What if you get lost in that big city? What if wicked people take advantage of you?" Daniel knelt beside her, holding her thin hand. "Mama, do not be afraid. I will be careful, I will work hard and send money back home every month. You and my sisters will never suffer again. I promise you this on Papa's grave." His two sisters, 15-year-old Joy and 13-year-old Faith, hugged him tightly, crying. "Brother, do not forget us," Joy said, her voice breaking. "Please come back soon." Daniel kissed their foreheads. "I will never forget you. You are my reason for doing this. One day you will go to good schools. You will wear fine clothes. You will not suffer as Mama has suffered. I promise." The next morning, before the sun rose, Daniel packed his small bag. Inside were 2 shirts, 1 pair of trousers, a small Bible his father had left behind, and the little money he had saved. He looked around the small mud house one last time, memorizing every corner. Then he stepped out into the cool morning air and began his journey. As he walked down the village road, a few early risers saw him and whispered among themselves. Some felt pity for him, others were glad to see him go, believing he was chasing an impossible dream. A week later, Daniel arrived in Lagos. The city was massive, overwhelming, and terrifying. The noise of cars honking, traders shouting, and people rushing everywhere made his head spin. Tall buildings stretched into the sky, something he had only seen in pictures. The smell of exhaust fumes, fried food, and garbage filled the air. Daniel stood at the motor park with his small bag, not knowing where to go or what to do. He had only 3,000 naira left in his pocket. "Excuse me, sir," he said to an older man selling newspapers. "Please, do you know where I can find work? I am new to Lagos." The man looked at him and smiled sadly. "Young man, everyone in Lagos is looking for work, but if you are strong and willing to do hard labor, go to the construction sites. They are always looking for workers." Daniel thanked him and asked for directions. He walked for over an hour under the hot sun until he found a large construction site. Men were carrying bags of cement, mixing concrete, and laying bricks. A fat man in a dirty shirt sat under a canopy, shouting orders. Daniel approached him nervously. "Good afternoon, sir. My name is Daniel. I am looking for work. Any work. I am strong and willing to learn." The man, who was the site supervisor, looked him up and down. "Where are you from?" he asked, chewing on a toothpick. "Emeka village, sir," Daniel replied. The man laughed. "Village boy, I see. Can you carry heavy loads?" Daniel nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I worked on my father's farm all my life. I can carry anything." The supervisor thought for a moment. "Okay, I will give you a chance. You will carry cement bags from the truck to the building. The pay is small, only 1,500 naira per day. And you work from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. If you are late, you will not be paid. If you are lazy, I will sack you. Do you agree?" Daniel's heart leapt. 1,500 naira a day was more than he made in a week selling vegetables. "Yes, sir, I agree. Thank you, sir." And so Daniel began his life as a construction laborer. The job was hard, harder than anything he had ever done. The bags of cement weighed 50 kilograms each. By the end of the first day, his shoulders screamed in pain, his back ached, and his hands were covered in blisters. But Daniel did not complain. He worked with all his strength. While other workers took long breaks and gossiped, Daniel kept working. While they spent their money on beer and cigarettes at the end of the day, Daniel saved every kobo. He found a small room in a crowded area called Ajagunle. The room was tiny, with no windows and a leaking roof. He shared it with 5 other men who snored loudly and smelled of sweat. But it cost only 5,000 naira per month, so Daniel was grateful. He sent money home to his mother every month, just as he had promised. But nights in Lagos were lonely. Daniel would lie on his thin mat, surrounded by strangers, and think of home. He thought of his mother's smile, he thought of his sister's laughter, and sometimes, despite himself, he thought of Blessing. He remembered her face, her voice, her cruel words. "You are not that man. You will never be that man." Those words played in his mind like a broken record. Instead of making him bitter, they pushed him harder. One night, as he lay awake listening to the sounds of the city, he whispered to himself, "Blessing, you were wrong. I will become that man, not to prove anything to you, but to prove it to myself." After 6 months of hard labor, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, a wealthy contractor named Mr. Adeyemi visited the construction site to inspect the progress. He was a successful businessman who owned several companies. As he walked around with the site supervisor, he noticed Daniel working. While other workers were resting under the shade, Daniel was busy mixing concrete, his body drenched in sweat. Mr. Adeyemi stopped and watched him for a few minutes. Then he called the supervisor aside. "Who is that young man?" he asked, pointing at Daniel. The supervisor replied, "That is Daniel, sir. He is a village boy. He has been working here for 6 months. He is very hard-working, never late, never complains." Mr. Adeyemi nodded thoughtfully. "Call him for me." The supervisor shouted, "Daniel, come here. Oga wants to see you." Daniel's heart raced. Had he done something wrong? He wiped his hands on his trousers and hurried over, bowing respectfully. "Good afternoon, sir," he said, his voice shaking slightly. Mr. Adeyemi studied him carefully. "What is your name?" "Daniel, sir." "Where are you from?" "Emeka village, sir." "Do you go to school?" Daniel lowered his head. "No, sir. I finished secondary school, but there was no money for university." Mr. Adeyemi nodded. "I have been watching you. You work harder than everyone here. Why?" Daniel looked up, surprised by the question. "Sir, I have a mother and 2 sisters depending on me. I cannot afford to be lazy. Every bag I carry, every block I lay is for them. And also," he hesitated, then continued, "I want to prove to myself that I can rise above my circumstances." Mr. Adeyemi smiled. Something about this young man's honesty and determination reminded him of himself many years ago. "I like you, Daniel. How would you like to work directly for me? I need someone I can trust, someone hardworking and honest. The pay will be better and you will learn about business." Daniel could not believe his ears. "Sir, are you serious?" Mr. Adeyemi laughed. "Yes, I am serious. Report to my office tomorrow morning." He handed Daniel a business card. Daniel held the card like it was made of gold. That night, he could not sleep. He prayed, thanking God for this miracle. The next morning, Daniel reported to Mr. Adeyemi's office. It was a tall building in Victoria Island, with air conditioning, marble floors, and well-dressed workers. Daniel felt out of place in his old clothes, but Mr. Adeyemi welcomed him warmly. "Daniel, I am going to start you as my personal assistant. You will follow me everywhere, learn how I do business, meet my clients, and handle important documents. But I need you to be honest, loyal, and hardworking. Can you do that?" Daniel nodded vigorously. "Yes, sir. I will not disappoint you." And he did not. For the next 2 years, Daniel worked closely with Mr. Adeyemi. He learned about contracts, negotiations, supply chains, and profit margins. He learned how to talk to clients, how to dress professionally, and how to carry himself with confidence. Mr. Adeyemi treated him like a son, teaching him everything. Daniel absorbed knowledge like a sponge. At night, after work, he would go to a small bookshop near his house and borrow books on business, investment, and leadership. He read everything he could find. While other young men his age were chasing women and partying, Daniel was studying and planning. He still lived in the same small room, still ate one meal a day to save money, still sent money home every month. But now he was saving more, much more. After 2 years, Mr. Adeyemi called Daniel into his office one afternoon. "Daniel," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you have been with me for 2 years now. You have learned well. You are ready." Daniel frowned, confused. "Ready for what, sir?" Mr. Adeyemi smiled. "Ready to start your own business. I have been watching you. I see the fire in your eyes. You do not want to work for someone forever. You want to build something of your own. Am I right?" Daniel's heart pounded. He had thought about it many times but never dared to say it aloud. "Yes, sir," he admitted. "I want to have my own business someday." Mr. Adeyemi reached into his drawer and pulled out an envelope. Inside this envelope is a check for 5 million naira. "It is not a gift. It is a loan. Use it to start a business. Pay me back when you succeed. And you will succeed, Daniel. I believe in you." Tears filled Daniel's eyes. "Sir, I do not know what to say." Mr. Adeyemi stood up and placed his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Say nothing. Just make me proud. And remember, success is not about how much money you make. It is about how many lives you touch." That day changed Daniel's life forever. He took the money and started a small construction supply business. He rented a small warehouse and began buying and selling building materials. He was honest, reliable, and always delivered on time. Word spread quickly. Contractors began to trust him. Within 6 months, his business doubled. Within a year, he had 3 warehouses. Within 2 years, he had opened his own construction company. Daniel worked day and night, never resting, never stopping. His mind was sharp and his heart was focused. He treated his workers well and paid them fairly. He remembered what it felt like to be poor, to be looked down upon, so he treated everyone with respect. People trusted him and his business grew rapidly. 5 years after leaving Emeka village, Daniel was no longer a poor farm boy. He had become a successful businessman. He owned a construction company, a fleet of trucks, several warehouses and multiple properties. He moved into a beautiful house in Lekki, one of the most expensive areas in Lagos. He drove a sleek black Mercedes-Benz and wore tailored suits, but even with all his success, Daniel remained humble. He never forgot where he came from. He never forgot the pain of rejection. He never forgot his mother and sisters. Every month, he sent more money home. He built his mother a new house with modern facilities, running water and electricity. He paid for his sister's education in good schools. Joy was now studying medicine at the university, and Faith was in her final year of secondary school. Mama Daniel no longer suffered. She had servants, good food, and the best medical care. Daniel made sure of that. But Daniel never forgot Blessing. Her words still echoed in his mind. "You are not that man. You will never be that man." Those words had pushed him to heights he never imagined. Sometimes, late at night after a long day of meetings and deals, Daniel would sit on his balcony overlooking the Lagos skyline and think about her. He wondered where she was, what she was doing, if she ever thought about him. But he pushed those thoughts away. He had moved on. He had built a new life. Blessing was part of his past, a painful chapter that he had closed. Or so he thought. Meanwhile, back in Emeka village, life had not been kind to Blessing. After Daniel left, many rich suitors came to ask for her hand in marriage. Blessing, confident in her beauty and status, rejected them one by one. "This one's car is too small," she would say. "This one's house is not big enough. This one does not have enough businesses." She was waiting for the perfect man, the richest, the most powerful, the most successful. Her mother supported her. "My daughter," Mama Okoro would say, "do not settle. You are too beautiful, too special. Wait for the best." And so Blessing waited. Then, 2 years after Daniel left, a man named Chief Balogun arrived in the village. He was 45 years old, drove a Range Rover, wore expensive clothes, and claimed to own several businesses in the city. He was everything Blessing thought she wanted. He was rich, powerful, and respected. When Chief Balogun saw Blessing, he was captivated by her beauty. "Chief Okoro," he said one evening, "I want to marry your daughter. Name your bride price, and I will pay it." Chief Okoro, who was impressed by Chief Balogun's wealth, agreed immediately. He did not investigate the man's background. He did not ask about his character. He only saw the money. Blessing was excited. Finally, she thought, "I am getting the life I deserve." The wedding was grand. The whole village attended. Blessing wore the finest wedding gown imported from abroad. There was plenty of food and drinks, musicians played, and people danced. Chief Okoro was proud, and Mama Okoro beamed with joy. "You see," Mama Okoro told the women at the wedding, "I told my daughter to wait for the right man. Now see how God has blessed her." But marriage to Chief Balogun was nothing like Blessing expected. Behind closed doors, he was cruel and arrogant. He already had 3 other wives whom he had hidden from Blessing's family. Blessing was treated like a servant in her own marriage. Chief Balogun would come home drunk, shout at her, and sometimes beat her. "You are my wife," he would say, his breath reeking of alcohol. "You will do as I say." Blessing cried many nights, but she could not return to her father's house. It would be a shame. What would people say? That she could not manage her marriage, so she endured, hoping things would get better. But they did not. Within 2 years, Chief Balogun's businesses began to collapse. It turned out that most of his wealth was borrowed money and deceit. He owed many people. Creditors came to the house demanding payment. Chief Balogun gambled away whatever money remained. He sold his cars, his properties, everything. Blessing, who once lived in luxury, now struggled to eat. Her fine clothes became rags. Her beauty faded from stress and hunger. The other wives mocked her. "You thought you were special," they would say, laughing. "Now see, you are just like us, suffering." And worst of all, one morning, Blessing woke up to find Chief Balogun gone. He had packed his remaining belongings in the night and disappeared, leaving her with nothing but shame and debt. The landlord threw her out of the house. She had nowhere to go. Broken, humiliated, and penniless, Blessing returned to her father's house. But things had changed there too. Chief Okoro, who was once wealthy, had fallen on hard times. Mismanagement, bad investments, and excessive spending had ruined him. The big house with iron gates was now old and falling apart. The cars had been sold. The servants had left. Chief Okoro himself had aged badly, his health failing. When Blessing arrived at the gate, her father barely recognized her. She was thin, her eyes hollow, her clothes torn. "Father," she whispered, falling to her knees. "Please forgive me. Please let me come home." Chief Okoro's heart broke. He had been so proud, so sure that his daughter had made the right choice. Now he saw the truth. "Come inside, my daughter," he said quietly, helping her up. Mama Okoro cried when she saw Blessing's condition. "What has that man done to you?" she wailed, but there were no answers, only tears. Blessing sat in the same compound where she had once rejected Daniel. She stared at the dusty ground, her mind filled with regret. She thought of Daniel often, wondering where he was, wondering if he ever thought of her. She remembered his words, "I have loved you for many years. Please give me a chance." She remembered her response, "You are not that man. You will never be that man." Now those words haunted her. She had chosen wealth and it had brought her nothing but pain. She had rejected love and now she had nothing. She cried many nights, alone in her small room. "God," she would pray, "if I could go back, I would choose differently. I was so foolish, so blind." One day, about 7 years after Daniel had left the village, a messenger arrived in Emeka with shocking news. A wealthy businessman from Lagos was coming to visit the village. He was born here, the messenger said, and he wanted to give back to the community. The villagers gathered in excitement. Who could this man be? Some guessed it might be someone's son who had succeeded abroad. Others thought it might be a politician looking for votes. Papa Eze, now much older and walking with a cane, smiled knowingly but said nothing. The elders prepared a grand welcome. They cleaned the village square, set up canopies, and arranged chairs. Women prepared food. Children practiced welcome songs. The whole village buzzed with anticipation. On the appointed day, early in the morning, people gathered at the village square. They waited under the hot sun, craning their necks to see who would arrive. Then, around noon, they heard it, the sound of engines, multiple engines. A convoy of expensive cars drove into the village, led by a gleaming black Mercedes-Benz. Dust rose as the vehicles parked in the village square. The villagers gasped. They had never seen such cars before. The doors opened, and out stepped well-dressed men in suits. Security guards stepped out first, scanning the area. Then from the Mercedes-Benz, a tall, well-dressed man emerged. His suit was sharp and perfectly tailored. His shoes shone like mirrors. His presence commanded respect. He wore dark sunglasses and carried himself with quiet confidence. The villagers whispered among themselves, trying to recognize him. "Who is he?" "I do not know." "He looks important. Maybe he is from the government." Then Papa Eze, standing at the front with the other elders, squinted his eyes. He looked closely at the man's face, his walk, his mannerisms. Suddenly, his eyes widened in disbelief. He stepped forward slowly, his cane shaking in his hand. "Daniel," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Is that you?" The man removed his sunglasses and smiled warmly. "Yes, Papa Eze. It is me. I have come home." The whole village erupted. People shouted in disbelief. "Daniel, the poor farmer's son? It cannot be. Is this the same boy who left here 7 years ago?" Women ululated, children ran around excitedly, young men stared in awe. Daniel walked forward and bowed respectfully before Papa Eze, just as he had done years ago. Papa Eze's eyes filled with tears. "My son," he said, his voice trembling. "You left here with nothing. Now look at you. God has truly blessed you." Daniel smiled humbly. "Papa, it was your blessing and your wisdom that kept me. I have never forgotten your words." Chief Okoro, standing in the crowd, felt his legs weaken. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked around frantically for his daughter. Blessing was standing at the back of the crowd, partially hidden behind other women. When she heard the name Daniel, her heart stopped. She pushed through the crowd to see better, and when her eyes finally fell on him, she froze completely. Her hands began to tremble, her breath caught in her throat. This could not be real. This could not be the same Daniel she had rejected, the same boy who had stood at her gate begging for love, the same man she had humiliated and sent away. But it was him. Blessing's vision blurred as tears filled her eyes. She covered her mouth with her hand to stop herself from crying out loud. Daniel addressed the crowd, his voice calm, clear, and confident. "My people, I left this village many years ago with nothing but hope and determination. Many of you remember me as the poor farmer's son, the boy who had nothing. Some of you pitied me, others mocked me, but God has blessed me beyond measure. I did not come here today to boast or to show off. I came here because I have never forgotten where I come from. This village raised me. This soil fed me. These people, even those who laughed at me, taught me valuable lessons." He paused, looking around at the faces staring at him in awe. "Today I am announcing several projects for our village. First, I am building a new secondary school with modern facilities, laboratories, a library and qualified teachers. Our children deserve quality education. Second, I am providing clean water for every household. No woman should have to walk miles to fetch water. Third, I am building a health center so our people do not have to travel far when they are sick. And fourth, I am creating a skills acquisition center and providing jobs so that our young people do not have to leave the village out of desperation as I once did." The villagers erupted in cheers. They clapped, they danced, they praised Daniel. Mothers lifted their children to see the man who had once been one of them. Papa Eze wept openly, his tears falling on his walking stick. Young men looked at Daniel with newfound respect and determination, thinking, "If he can do it, maybe we can too." But in the midst of the celebration, Blessing stood frozen. Her tears flowed freely now, no longer able to hold them back. She remembered every word she had said to him. "You have nothing. You will never be that man. Go back to your poverty." She had been so wrong, so terribly, painfully wrong. Daniel had become everything she once dreamed of, but she had rejected him when he had nothing. Now he had everything, and she had nothing. As the celebration continued, Daniel's eyes scanned the crowd. Then they stopped. He saw her, Blessing, standing at the edge of the crowd, tears streaming down her face, her clothes old and faded, her beauty dimmed by suffering. For a moment, time stood still, their eyes locked. Daniel's face remained calm, unreadable. He simply looked at her, no anger, no bitterness, just a long, steady gaze. Then he turned away and continued speaking to the elders. Blessing felt her knees weaken. She wanted to run to him, to fall at his feet, to beg for forgiveness. But shame held her back. Later that evening, Daniel visited the new house he had built for his mother. Mama Daniel was now healthy and strong. When she saw him, she wept with joy. my son," she cried, embracing him tightly. "I always knew God had a plan for you." Daniel's sisters, Joy and Faith, now beautiful young women, ran to hug their brother. Joy was studying medicine, and Faith had just gained admission to study law. "Brother, we are so proud of you," Joy said. "You never forgot us even when you became successful." Daniel smiled warmly. "How could I forget you? You are my family." As they sat together eating, there was a soft knock on the door. Daniel stood up. "Let me get it, Mama." He opened it. Standing there, her head bowed, her hands trembling, was Blessing. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Daniel, I know I have no right to be here. But please, I need to speak with you, just for a few minutes." Daniel stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "What do you want, Blessing?" he asked quietly. Blessing fell to her knees right there in the dirt. "Daniel, please forgive me. I was foolish. I was blind. I judged you by your poverty, but you were richer in character than any man I have ever met. I rejected you. I humiliated you. I broke your heart. And now I have nothing. The man I married for his money destroyed me. He beat me, abandoned me, left me with shame. My father has lost everything. And every day I remember what I did to you. Every day I hate myself for how I treated you." She looked up at him, her face wet with tears. "I am not asking you to take me back. I am not asking for your love. But please, Daniel, please forgive me. I cannot live with this guilt anymore." Daniel looked down at her. He remembered the pain of that day at her father's gate. He remembered the laughter of the servants, the cruel words that had cut him deeper than any knife. Part of him wanted to walk away. But then he remembered Papa Eze's words, "Never let money change your heart." He remembered Mr. Adeyemi's wisdom, "Success is about how many lives you touch." Daniel reached down and helped Blessing to her feet. "Blessing," he said gently, "stand up. You do not need to kneel before me." She stood slowly, her legs shaking. Daniel continued, "Yes, you hurt me. Yes, your words broke me. For months after I left this village, your voice haunted me. Every night I heard you saying, 'You are not that man. You will never be that man." Those words pushed me to work harder than I ever thought possible. In a strange way, your rejection made me who I am today. Daniel raised his hand. "I forgave you a long time ago, Blessing. Not because you asked for it, not because you deserved it, but because holding on to bitterness would have poisoned my soul. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I refuse to let hatred live in my heart. So yes, I forgive you." Blessing's eyes widened. "You forgive me?" Daniel nodded, "But forgiveness does not mean I have forgotten. It means I have chosen to release the pain and move forward with my life." Blessing covered her face with her hands, sobbing. "Daniel, you are a better person than I will ever be. I threw away a diamond because I was chasing gold that turned out to be brass." Daniel smiled sadly. "Blessing, I did not come back to this village to revisit the past. I came back to build a better future for our people. You are not nothing. You made a mistake, but mistakes do not define us. What defines us is what we do after the mistake." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Inside this envelope is money. Enough to start a small business. Use it wisely. Rebuild your life. And this time, measure people by their character, not their pockets." Blessing stared at the envelope, unable to move. "Daniel, why? Why would you help me after what I did to you?" Daniel's eyes grew distant. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. If I cannot show kindness to someone from my own village, then what is the point of all this success?" He placed the envelope in her trembling hands. "Use this money well, Blessing. Start a business. Take care of yourself and your family." Blessing clutched the envelope to her chest and wept. "Daniel, I do not deserve this." Daniel turned to go back inside. "None of us deserve grace, Blessing. But we receive it anyway. That is what makes it graceful." He paused. "And Blessing, I heard your father is sick. Tomorrow I will visit him and see how I can help. Not because he deserves it, but because it is the right thing to do." With that, he stepped inside and closed the door. That night, Blessing walked home slowly. When she entered her father's compound, her mother was sitting outside. "Blessing, where have you been?" Blessing sat beside her mother and told her everything. Mama Okoro listened in silence. "My daughter," she said quietly, "I am the one who taught you to chase money. I filled your head with foolish ideas. That Daniel, the boy I told you to avoid, has become the very blessing we rejected." The next morning, Daniel visited Chief Okoro's compound. The old chief was lying on a worn mat, too weak to stand. When he heard Daniel had come, he insisted on being helped to a chair. Daniel entered and greeted him respectfully. "Good morning, sir. I have come to check on you." Chief Okoro looked at him, shame written all over his face. "Daniel, I remember you. You are the boy my daughter rejected. I was a proud fool. I thought wealth made me better than others. But now I have nothing, and you have everything." Daniel sat down. "Sir, I did not come here to remind you of the past. I came because I heard you are sick, and I want to help." Chief Okoro's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you help me?" "I do not deserve your help." Daniel smiled gently. "Sir, if we all got what we deserved, where would any of us be?" He called his assistant. "Arrange for Chief Okoro to be taken to the best hospital. All expenses will be covered by me." Chief Okoro wept. "Daniel, you are a better man than I ever was. Character is greater than wealth." In the days that followed, news of Daniel's generosity spread through the village and beyond. Young men sought his advice. Parents brought their children to meet him. Daniel spent a week overseeing his projects. He hired local workers, paid them fair wages, and treated everyone with respect. One evening, Papa Eze called Daniel to his house. The old man was very frail. "My son," Papa Eze said, "sit with me. I do not have much time left." Daniel sat close. Papa Eze continued, "When you came to me 7 years ago, broken and rejected, I saw a fighter. Many would have become bitter, but you channeled your pain into purpose. Now you have returned with wealth, but what impresses me most is that your character remained intact. You are blessing the same village that rejected you. That is true greatness." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Papa, everything I am is because of your wisdom. Papa Eze smiled weakly. Promise me that no matter how high you rise, you will never forget where you came from. Promise me you will continue to lift others as you climb. Daniel nodded. I promise, Papa. Papa Eze closed his eyes. Then I can rest in peace. 3 days later, Papa Eze passed away. Daniel personally organized and funded the funeral. Back in Lagos, Daniel's life flourished. His businesses expanded across the country. He became known as a philanthropist who never forgot his roots. He established scholarships, built schools, and created jobs for thousands. In one interview, a reporter asked, "What is the secret of your success?" Daniel replied, "I was rejected and broken. But I chose to let that pain push me forward. Money can build empires, but only character can sustain them." Years passed. Daniel married a kind woman named Kioma who loved him for his heart. They built a beautiful family. 3 children taught humility, hard work, and generosity. Daniel often told his children his story. Never judge people by their present circumstances. Treat everyone with respect, because you never know whose story you are part of. Back in Emeka village, the school Daniel built produced excellent students. The health center saved countless lives. The village became known for progress. Blessing rebuilt her life. Her tailoring business grew steadily. She became a mentor to young women. She often told her story. I once rejected a good man because he was poor. I learned the hard way that money without character is worthless. Do not make the same mistake. Dear viewers, this story teaches us powerful lessons about judgment and redemption. Blessing measured Daniel by his poverty and missed the treasure of his character. But Daniel channeled his pain into purpose and his success into generosity. This story reminds us that how we treat people in their low moments reveals our true character, and how we respond to rejection determines our future. What do you think, my dear viewers? If you were in Daniel's place, would you have helped the person who rejected you? I would love to read your thoughts in the comment section. There's another very interesting story I'll upload the day after tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified immediately the new story drops. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends so they too can learn from it. Remember, success is not about what you have, but about who you are and how you treat others. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate every single one of you. Until next time, stay blessed, stay humble, and remember that your current situation is not your final destination.